I've been having. I'm learning lessons. I the last videos I made, I had to, and I'll tell you what happened. Two of them, I had two, but I'm learning lessons. One last week, a car came and hit telephone poles and knocked out all our cable, and those who had cable television and those who had cable phone service, and also all of our internet. So on that one, I can't remember if I kept it or if I just let it go one story, or I just did it over that one story the next time. But then I was in the sauna and I turned down the temperature on the sauna because I just wanted to be in a warm place, not necessarily a hot place. It still got too hot for the phone. I'm learning lessons. So back to reading God, Faith, and Reason by Michael Savage. Here's the book. I think I should put him as my thumbnail on my video someday. Yeah, we should just probably go like this. Me and Michael. Anyhow, and we're going to start with story 23, and it's called Genesis 2 verse 5 and Genesis 2 verse 8. So let's get going. I have some brief comments on Genesis 2 verse 5 and Genesis 2 verse 8. Genesis 2 verse 5 says, "No shrub of the field was yet on the earth, and no herb of the field had yet sprung up." Can you imagine? Before the earth grew anything, nothing, just dirt. Genesis 2 verse 8 says, "And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed." As I first read that, I shuddered when I thought of the great literature that has been derived from biblical statements. Of course, you know that East of Eden came directly from the Bible. There are so many other literary references to the Bible by Shakespeare and other great writers over the ages, all derived from the greatest poet of all. Genesis 2, verse 18. "And the Lord God said, it's not good that man should be alone. It's clear to anyone who reads it that man and woman belong together." I felt it necessary to repeat that point. Remember, before when we read that part, he said, I could write a book just on this. He could. I felt it necessary to repeat that point, given this age of ambivalence. But it seems to me that the universal truth for all mankind is man plus woman as one flesh, period, end of story. I just told our priest that. I said, sometimes my husband forgets to say his grace before his meal, so I say, "Bless us, O Lord, in these thy gifts which we are about to receive, except for my husband who has already received it." Then I said to the priest, then I hear from Don in the living room, where Don likes to eat in the living room. I like to eat at the table. Don said, "Thank you." I go, well, we're one. I'm his other half. I can pray for him too. Oh. So, man, woman, one flesh, period, end of story. That's what marriage is about. That's what the sacrament of marriage is about. Blessed. One of the first activity of man God blessed was marriage, right in the Bible, in Genesis. It's a serious thing. It's more serious than a lot of people give it thought or credit. It's a real serious thing. So here we go. From Tennis to Temple's Tempest. So we've had 23 and 24 were very short little stories, all about Genesis. 23, 24, 25. Lean, spare, and athletic, Barry is a 60-year-old who looks better than most fit 40-year-olds. I would like to have met Barry on the tennis court where he taught professional players the psychology of winning. But I met him in a different setting. And as we talked, I was impressed by his being a learned rabbi and trained psychologist, not exhibiting the binds or trappings of either role, choosing instead the easy grace of master tennis instructor. That's interesting. 14 years after I scented my first perfumed plumeria, heard the song of the dove, and was awed by great vertical rainbows in the tropical forest. Remember, he's a doctor of herbal medicine. He literally went traveling in tropical forests. I found myself in a hotel room on an island, witnessing the unshackling of my imprisoned other self. My only son, Russell Golden Cloud, was now 12. In May of that year, he would walk to the Torah and read his portion before an assembly of his parents' friends. I had avoided formal Judaism in my many intermediary years of wandering far from the fold, but Jewish I was. Jewish he would be too. A member of sisterhoods and brotherhoods. Paid tickets to worship on high holy days. Never. See, I was, because, he had atheist grandparents and stuff, and but I suspected it was a Jewish base that Michael Savage is coming from. My deceased grandfather, Samuel, the father of my father, Benjamin, had taught me from his grave. His daughter, Beulah, my strong-willed aunt, I hope I'm your strong-willed aunt to all my nieces and nephews, had told me years after his premature death that he, too, had not believed in formal religion. If you are in the woods, a tree to your back becomes a temple. Well, that's different, though. That's finding God and being able to worship God anywhere. But the formal religion, or the going to a church, it's a whole different thing. It's a communion, community, coming together, sharing together, because God knew that in unity there was strength. Unity. Pantheism, the worship of natural phenomena, such as the plumeria and rainbow, perhaps, but who created those natural wonders? I know God created the rainbow, he told us in Genesis, and it's his signature in the sky. And I think no one should be able to use the rainbow as a flag, because you can't pretend to be God. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. And so it went, and so I went, and so went the religious teaching of my son, until I found myself on that tropical island in a paradisical corner of the universe, with a free copy of the Teaching of Buddha in my hotel bedroom drawer. I've never seen the Teaching of Buddha in my hotel bedroom drawer. Around only Gideons. I've only seen Gideons. Where the Gideons walked, the Buddhists now flew, placing the words of their teacher to encourage resistance against temptation, I suppose. But with a son, a daughter, and a loyal woman of 14 years all sleeping, wind-soft sleep in tropical beds adjacent to mine, where was the temptation? I wouldn't be tempted. I'd be very content if I was there. The second night, unable to sleep, I drew the spare bed to the terrace and lay awake, the crashing surf both sedating me and arousing me. That could be a problem. Here was purity, I thought, yet visions of flooding waves running over this corner of the island disallowed the deep rest I so anxiously sought to soothe my aching lungs and heart, prematurely worn from life on the freeways of ambition. In the sharp light by my bed, now snapped on, I restlessly pushed aside the 5 or 6 books I had so greedily bought in the Honolulu bookstore, a biography of George Orwell and 4 or 5 English translations of modern Japanese novels. Instead, the words of more ancient masters seemed to ring truer. I flipped through the pages of the small, colorfully jacketed book I had found in the bedroom drawer. A man who chases after fame and wealth and love affairs is like a child who licks honey from the blade of a knife. While he is tasting the sweetness of the honey, he has to risk hurting his tongue. He is like a man who carries a torch against a strong wind. Ow! The flame will surely burn his hands and face. The way of purification was the sections in the teaching of Buddha where I found this cajoling jewel of instruction. Without insisting on my good behavior, this book immediately felt like advice of a good friend. It suggested without telling me. It suggested. As the waves continued to crash 100 yards from that room, I continued to read in that little portable bed out on the deck as my family slept their sleep and dreamed their dreams. Compared with my struggles with the world of books and words, the prim little volume found in the hotel room drawer seemed to answer so many needs. And it is a footnote. 1 week later, a fierce storm struck the island, washing that very room out to sea. Oh my goodness. Shut up. He had a premonition. I was trying to talk to him. See, that's what I always think. You can't sleep. I mean, you can fret about it because, I'm going to be tired the next day. But hello, that's what got me coffee for. And, or you can embrace it. I've changed my mind about being grumpy about being awake at night and not able to sleep. There's been days I've gone to work. I only had 2 hours of crappy sleep. I tell everybody 3 hours of crappy sleep, but I'm here now. I'm here. I think if you can't sleep, God is trying to get a hold of you. And I think you should contemplate God, concentrate on God, pray, a lot of praying. Now, whenever I can't sleep, I think of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he says, "Will no one stay awake with me, Peter, John, James? Can no one pray with me, Peter, John, James?" And so now I say, "I'm here, Lord. I'll pray with you. I'll be with you. I'll stay awake with you. What do you need me to pray for? I'll just pray and you put it where you need it." It's changed my whole attitude. That's a good thing. In a good way, I should say. Changed my attitude in a good way. So that's a good thing. So here we have a scripture. Isaiah 53 verse 4. "Surely our diseases he did bear, and our pains he carried. Whereas we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted." Yeah, it's Jesus on the cross. And story number, let me see. That was, I got to figure out which story we're on. Okay, 23 and 24 were short. 25, that's the one we just got done. So now we're on 26. And then I think I'm going to stop after 26. A covenant with all the ills of the world. The connections I saw between the two life ways, Buddhism and Judaism, were immediate and apparent. The 6 holes which cause the loss of wealth are desire for intoxicating drinks and behaving foolishly, staying up late at night and losing the mind in frivolity. That's kind of fun sometimes. I'm guilty of that one. More so than the latter. I failed drinking at a young age, and it's a good thing. Indulging in musical and theater entertainments. I don't do that too much, but I enjoy that. Gambling. Don't do that hardly ever. Associating with evil companions and neglecting one's duties. Well, we all neglect our duties once in a while. That's Buddha. He calls those the 6 holes which cause the loss of wealth. I guess you could also add, instead of intoxicating drinks, drugs. Rabbi Dosa, the son of Horkanah, said, "Morning sleep and midday wine and children's talk and attending the houses of assembly of the ignorant drive a man from the world. I don't think I agree with that either, because I used to be a night nurse. And a night nurse had to sleep in the morning, or she didn't sleep at all. And you want a good night nurse, you want her to have good sleep. He was a wealthy man and wrote these words as a guide for his social equals. That was always it, when you were a night nurse and night shift person. No one ever really understands you. We're a weird lot. But I'm okay with that. Of course, there was a difference in the style of teaching. Where the Asian sages vaguely cajoled, the rabbis seemed to scold. Or as in the next set, I found the Buddhist verse more poetic and therefore more appealing. Rain falls, wind blow, plants bloom, leaves mature and are blown away. These phenomena are all interrelated with causes and conditions, are brought about by them and disappear as the causes and conditions change. Yeah, like that big wave came and blew away his little room. And when the waves went away, so was the room. They disappear. One is born through the conditions of parentage. His body is nourished by food. So, and that is the condition of where you're planted, what kind of food you're going to get. His spirit is nurtured by teaching and experiences. Yes, my goodness. As a net is made up of a series of ties, so everything in this world is connected by a series of ties. If anyone thinks that the mesh of a net is an independent, isolated thing, he is mistaken. And that was from Buddha. So there he's comparing our whole lives to a net, and we have ties to things. And that's kind of true. It's just some deep thinking. I think of Buddhism as like philosophy, because it certainly isn't my belief, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have any value. The Jewish teaching regarding cause and effect that I read as a child went like this. Note the similarity of meaning to the previous. Buddhist teaching. Rabbi Chananya said, I probably have ruined that name. I'm sorry, Rabbi Chananya. I have no idea how to say that. They that are born are destined to die. That's what our nurses taught us in nursing school. The day you're born is when you start to die. Oh, I was gobsmacked. What? And the dead to be brought to life again, and the living to be judged, to know, to make known, and to be made conscious that he is God. He the maker, he the creator, he the discerner, he the judge, he the witness, he the complainant. I'm thinking he's saying not he, the person who died, but the person who died discovers the he. He it is that will in future judge. Blessed be he, blessed be God, with whom there is no unrighteousness, nor forgetfulness, nor respect of persons, nor taking of bribes. That's true. God never takes a bribe. We should be thankful for that. Know also that everything is according to the reckoning, and let not thy imagination give thee hope that the grave will be a place of refuge for thee. For perforce thou wilt in the future have to give account and reckoning before the Supreme King of Kings, the Holy One. He's probably going to sit there and say, if you want to use that net Buddha visual. And, in the Catholic Church, they always talk about God gives you talents. And he does. And he's going to say to you, what'd you do with that talent? What'd you do with this talent? What'd you do with that talent? Thank God Jesus saves us. I'm going to tell him that. I'm going to go, well, that's what I did. And then Jesus helped me tie a knot there to hold it all together. And that's how I made my net. I had long known God as a vengeful God, one who judged according to his laws, allowing no mercy. Nothing occurs on this earth that is not somehow related to behavior in this world or the world of our karmic past. I don't I don't see it as vengeful, and I don't see it as punishment ever. Do you really think God thinks it's punishing you when he's teaching you a lesson? Do you regret a lesson you ever taught your child? No. And when he has all knowledge, he has all knowledge. He knows we're not going to be encapsulated in our current situation forever, whatever that may be, whether are trapped by a disability or, we're not going to be trapped. He knows, so why, why would that concern him if he knows the greatness that we do not know? I have been taught that precept in two distinctly different ways by two distinctly different parents. My father, Benjamin, the son of Samuel, had given me the mechanistic view of the universe through his explanations of the natural world. So that's where that connection came for him and his becoming a doctor of biology. I remember Frank Buck, the animal collector, from a film shown in a cozy room one rainy summer day. I think it was in August, and my father was enjoying his intermittent summer rest from the antique shop. The city was 100 miles beyond the low round mountains that sheltered our precious togetherness. Precious is an understatement. As the old projector flipped its filmic images of a far-off Indian jungle with the pith-helmeted hero collector trying to ensnare rare animals without killing them. My father whispered his running comments in that deep, strong voice I still seek. He, as my first teacher, seemed to instruct me in a wisdom I immediately understood. Oh, you're so lucky, Michael Savage, that your father bothered to take the time to teach. As an adult, I have learned that as a person, I take things personally. Those proclaiming the wisdom of the East declare the opposite. They believe that the precept of humility requires a loss of personhood, a willingness to submit to others who may insult, even humiliate them. Somehow, Frank Buck's ensnarement of those poor wild beasts in the Indian jungle in that rainy summer movie room showed me the supremacy of man over beast with mercy. All men seek to control others who cannot control themselves. That passion is the wild beast, and our will or belief in self control is the pathway to reason, to compassion, and to God. But what troubles I would have, still do have, in controlling my desires. That's it right there. God and humans are separated from animals, and God has given us that ability to self regulate. Animals don't have that. They don't fast and pray, ever. They fast when there's a lack of food. My mother, Rachel, daughter of Rebecca, accepted man's fate more pacifically. It's pacify, but it's pacifically. Not like Pacific the ocean, but like pacify. Her ill son, my brother Jerome, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed beauty, had been born blind, deaf, and unable to move. He was the ultimate hostage in a game between God and the family. Talk about a disability. Right there. Why, oh why, I used to ask this patient woman, did God, who you say is good, make Jerome so broken? Despite her tears, her permanently handkerchiefed hand, her loyalty to her second son, my poor brother, was boundless. God, she told me, never makes a mistake. He has his reasons for everything. I think of Annie Reinschmidt taking care of her disabled son, Connie. He was a fully grown adult, but he was like a baby. Had to be fed, and he couldn't walk. God, I admired that woman. Well, I still admire her. She's still alive. Wonderful woman. And so she accepted her imperfect son, continuing to visit him once a week for 23 long, cold years after he had been sent to a hospital, against her maternal instinct, at the advice of a secular physician, for the sake of the healthy children. So he was sent to a hospital. She wanted to keep him at home. I think she should have kept him at home because I think it's very good for the rest of the children to see that, for the rest of the humans to see that nurturing. The healthy children were myself and my sister. As time would prove, the silent may be wiser than those capable of ensnaring with their guile, the cripple lither than the athlete. Which is why I searched for the answers in the distant silence of the Pacific Islands, seeking to find the cure for my little brother, long dead in a covenant with all the ills of the world. No, long dead in a covenant with God. That's not ill. So that's where we're going to end. And we'll start with story 27 the next time. And I'm glad to be back. This is my, well, life interrupts. Mom always said, life has a funny way of throwing you a little curveball once in a while. God bless you, Mama. I love you. Okay, so it's time to end the stream. God bless. Love you.